Praise God, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to another session. Welcome to another Wednesday night Bible study slash relationship podcast slash hanging out with us. And I kind of like this series because it's kind of like you just come into our house and we get a chance to kind of talk one-on-one. Most people don't know, but what you are seeing here live is kind of what you would get if you come to our house and have coffee, or if we hang out in a restaurant. This is kind of what it is. So we know that we cannot take everyone out to eat and have a one-on-one, and so hopefully you kind of get this feel. Right?
Yeah.
So welcome, Pastor Myrli, to another episode, I believe. And today we're going to kind of open up the other section of the relationship topic that we're getting into. So Sundays, we're getting into prophecy.
Right.
We're getting great feedback, right? Because you're doing a fantastic job and really opening up that line of thinking. And I think it's going to be a big blessing for the church.
Praise God, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we've been receiving so many emails, questions through text, through email, through social media, and keep them coming. You know, what I really like is that you're making our sessions actually better by sending in those questions. And I love that you are directing them in general or to Pastor Ralf or to me. And we're definitely going to make it anonymous, but we're gonna try to answer them in every session, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of them. We can't go through all of them tonight, but if we hit the topic, I think that we should, answer some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things, let's start off like this, because so we were driving, right? And one of the, I posed to you a question and I said, regret is a funny thing. We're talking about regret because regret kind of, you don't know you're going to regret something until you actually do it. And it's kind of like looking back and saying, wow, I really regret that. I should have done that differently.
Yes.
And so during the opposite of that is when you kind of do something that you didn't think was going to work that well. And it actually, instead of regret, it's like this moment of clarity. Is like, wow, that was a blessing, in disguise.
Right.
And so I would say that the opposite of regret is a blessing in disguise. and so we came across some rules, that we started on early in our marriage that turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Yes, because we didn't know it was going to work and nobody told us to do it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that today and open up that. So one of the couple things I want to talk about, number one is money management. Okay. Argue management.
Argue management.
Right. Decision management.
Decision management.
Okay. And what else? Oh, and respect management.
Wow, that's a lot. Are we going to get that in 30 minutes?
Well, let's see if we can get it in. If we can dedicate 10 minutes to each thing.
Okay.
I think it would be good. So I wanted to should we start with the money part? Because money is pretty important, but maybe let's work up to that and let's talk about decisions. There was a rule that we made early on.
That's good. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's talk about decisions.
We'll do.
One of the things that I think, I don't know if it was my mom or yours, but they had told us early on that when we first got together and we first got married, to not involve other family members in our decision making. In other words, we had this deal that no matter how hard it got between us, or no matter how frustrated you were with me, or vice versa, that you wouldn't run and tell your mom or my mom or anyone else in the family.
That was your mom.
Right, that was my mom said that, right? Thank you, mommy. Because there was at that time, there was a lot of that, right? Soon as you were set with your man, you would go complain to your mom or to his mom.
Or to your bitter best friend.
Yeah, and that turned out to be a blessing because we never brought our problems outside the house. Mm-hmm. We made it so that we had to deal with it ourselves. Yeah. And we kind of created a sink or swim situation. And it was a little scary because we didn't know how that was going to work out. But how was that for you? It was a little easier for me because I don't really like to tell people my business anyway.
Yeah.
But there was some times that I found it a hard thing to not tell anyone like what was going on.
Right.
Because it wasn't that I wanted to tattletale, but I wanted some help.
Right.
And it really, for me personally, set me up in a way where it was like, all right, I can't go and call a buddy. I can't phone someone to air out these frustrations.
Right.
And what it did, it forced me back into the Bible. It forced me back in the presence of God, and to have God as my counsel. And of course, let me say this as a kind of disclaimer. We're not talking about abuse. We're not talking about things that are obviously dysfunctional where you see you're going to be in harm or this is like it's out of your control. We're talking about little arguments, little spats that you're just frustrated that you would, if it was just a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you would just kind of blabber off about it, right? To kind of release some tension or to get it off your chest. That's what I'm talking about, right? I never got it off my chest. I found a way to release that in prayer, and the Lord gave me peace about it, and we're able to come back. How was that for you during that process?
Well, this might come to you as a surprise, but I didn't really share my life with my parents. I think if out of everyone on this earth, I think you know me better than anyone else that ever existed.
Yeah.
But I've never been very forthcoming with my parents. It wasn't very communicative. I mean, they communicated to me, but I was not communicating back. So I wasn't used to sharing. You know, I always had that wall. I didn't know how to share. But I did have a counselor since I was 12. And so moving forward through my adult life, I was able to learn coping skills through counseling. And that was very helpful. And so when we got together, and I thought the world was going to fall apart every time, I don't know, a little thing happened, because I thought everything was going to be perfect, that's when I saw that I needed to go back into my growing pains and go back into my education that she gave me. And she was very nurturing. And I was able to remember some of the coping skills that I learned in counseling. She wasn't a Christian counselor, but you know, she was Jewish, but she definitely was godly.
Yeah.
She really cared about me. And so I was grateful for that, because I didn't know how important she was until I got into some trouble in my young adult time.
Yeah.
And I had to go see her a few times myself. And but yeah, so when we were having problems, that helped me. And then I would, you know, get close to you know, asking questions to people. I wouldn't say, oh, this is what's going on and blah, 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 and vent. I never vented. I would like ask questions to people that would probably know something better.
Yeah. The Bible says that a fool gives full vent to his spirit in Proverbs, that it has biblically never been a good idea to give full vent, because sometimes our frustrations are not fully thought out, and sometimes we don't know what move we're going to make after. And this is something that I've seen, where a person in marriage, right, gets really angry at their spouse to the point where they have told themselves, well, you know what, it's over, okay? And then at that point, they give themselves permission to go ahead and tell everybody how they feel.
Oh, yeah, because they think it's over.
Right. And then they get back together.
Oh.
Okay? And what happened is, as a side effect, none of your people like him anymore.
Yes.
Or none of his people like her anymore. Now, every time there's a function, they catch an attitude, or you get the side eye, or the family just doesn't like you no more, because now this person gave full vent. You know what? I was always frustrated about her about this and this and this, and then you just let it rip.
But she's not there to defend herself.
She can't. Yeah, she's not there to defend herself. He's not there to defend himself.
And they love him, so they're gonna take his side.
Right. And then you get back together, and no, this is what I've seen. Right. So everyone is like on board. All right, yeah, you should leave him. Or yeah, you should definitely leave her. She's horrible. And everyone's closed, because when we get passionate, we close people on the idea of moving on. People are already setting you up on dates. They're, you know, they're taking you to the gym. No, you're gonna lose 20 pounds and you're gonna get you another man. And then all of a sudden
revenge body.
Yeah, then they see you, revenge body. Then you get back with the dude secretly, because you ain't told nobody, right? Because you done dogged them out.
Yeah.
Or brother done told her business out there.
Yeah.
And then what happens? No one, right? Your people take your side.
Yeah.
And even though you're like, okay, no, accept the person, they're cool, they can't unhear what they heard.
Yeah.
And I have seen that that worked for us because we never did that. We never played that role where we diminished our credibility in the eyes of people that were not in the relationship. And I'm so glad that we did that because it gave us an opportunity to mind our business, okay? Let other people mind their business and not get involved. And you see it kind of over time where there's a peace about it and never us having to go back. And I'm not saying that we had those moments, okay? I don't think we would have the relationship that we did if we had these crazy moments of, unforgiveness or stuff that we just couldn't get over. But I really appreciate the fact that we gave each other the time to have that privacy, in those first, I would say, probably the first 7 years of trying to get to know each other well.
Yeah, it was a struggle. It was very hard. Every marriage is morphing into something new. It's evolving into something new because two become one flesh.
Yeah.
So it's the first 7 years is definitely going to be hard. But once you get over that 7th year, you should really celebrate because things just got better.
Yeah.
Things got so much better for us. But I do want to say that most of the time when people want to vent, it's because they're not getting their way in the conversation with the spouse. So it's like, you're not understanding me. I don't know why are you so hard-headed? You're being selfish, blah, blah, blah. Now, and what's worse is this. If you're not saying these things to him, but it's in your head, and you're like trying to prove your point, and you're trying to win this argument, and you're emotionally attached to this decision. And it's only a decision.
Yeah.
You can change it. You can make it better. You could build it up.
Yeah, that's good.
And so two are supposed to become one so that the decision becomes something great that we can be proud of. It's like creating a painting, right? A sculpture. So
that's good.
So all of a sudden, I'm in my head, it's like, he's so selfish, I can't believe it. So all the things I wasn't able to vent to you about yourself because I don't want to make a bigger problem, now the venting goes out this way. This is the reason why most people vent to their parents, to their, siblings or to their friends about how bad you are, And so if the venting makes you a fool, maybe it's because you can't be honest here. If you're honest here and you take more self-control over your emotions and you can focus on what's really important, which is the decision.
That takes a level of maturity because sometimes our immaturity will not allow the other person to speak because sometimes we just get so defensive that while the other person is talking, we already are figuring what we're going to say. And it's like, I can't wait for her to stop talking because I already got my next 2 points lined up.
Yeah.
And so that is immature because a mature conversation between two adults should be giving each other the time to present their case. And this is kind of, I wanted to talk about the third point, but let's talk about it now, which is arguing versus making an argument. We talked about this in couples ministry, right?
Yes.
How you will get in trouble if your focus is not on the argument. So in other words, I can take it where I cross the line into insulting you and insulting your intelligence, insulting your decision making, insulting you as a person, insulting where you come from. Right? By comparing you to your mother or comparing you to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get so defensive that all we want to do is go on the attack. And then we could possibly forget what the argument was about. Okay, which didn't happen to us a lot. One of those things that we kind of just stumbled upon, that it just really worked, which was, not disrespecting each other.
That was the best one.
Yeah, because once you pose disrespect and disrespect is an option, or name calling is an option, insults is an option as a defensive mechanism to make myself feel better.
Right.
It's the most unproductive, destructive, sabotaging thing that we could have done.
Yeah.
And this is true, right? I have never. We're married now. We've been together 22 years. I've never called you a derogatory name, never cussed you out, never stuff like that. And early on, probably like within the first months, that was one of the things that I asked you to not do to me.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
which is to not disrespect, because I just knew, and people who know me know, like, I don't do disrespect well.
Oh, yeah.
I can forgive.
so hard for
yeah,
you.
I can forgive a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I have found in my personal studies of myself that I am terrible at forgiving disrespect.
Yes.
I just have this thing that when I feel disrespected, I don't know, psychologically, I just start to erase what the person looks like and just like,
Yes, you do.
just go into this void of like, I don't need this in my life.
Yeah.
And so I knew, because I didn't conquer that,
Right.
that I would say, please, for the sake of our future, don't present these words or these things that would cross this line.
Right.
And so I think we stumbled across the philosophy of making the argument, okay, not arguing. Because as soon as we went to arguing, we would teeter on that borderline of insulting each other.
Yeah.
Because since we know each other so well and we're so close, it's just so easy to cross the line. Whereas we wouldn't cross the line with someone that we're not married to or someone that we're not in love with. But the closer you are, ironically, the more comfortable you are, just going at the person, which I think is terrible. But we didn't do it, and I'm glad we didn't do it, right? I never got it from you. You didn't get it from me. And that's one of those things that turned out to be a very big blessing, down the line.
Yeah, and that was hard because I cursed like a sailor.
Well, you did at
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, my dad taught me how to curse.
Yeah. Why don't you share some of those curse words now? Just kidding. Don't do that.
But you understand, like it was in me to do it. It was a natural vocabulary.
Yeah.
So coming into the relationship, it was like you're asking me to not be myself.
Yeah.
And I had to dig deep. I had to dig deep and say, is this marriage, is this love worth fighting for, where I can make a selfless decision to say, okay, I'm going to choose my words wisely and not disrespect you.
Right. And that's good. And I appreciate that. So what going in from that, we didn't break that rule, because that was a big time rule.
Yeah.
Okay. No matter how angry you are, do not cross the line into that vocal disrespect.
And we couldn't.
Or passive aggressive disrespect.
That's very natural for women to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, now you're not, okay, I'm not going to talk. You told me to shut up. I'm not talking no more. And then
Right.
they start slamming doors and won't talk, but everything else is talking. But we also went to another decision that led us to the decision of we don't insult our siblings or family members to each
That's
other.
a big one.
And I'll never talk about your siblings or your parents or, in a foul way. I would never disrespect you by talking about them.
Yeah.
I can vent about my siblings and my parents,
Right.
but you can't chime in talking about, yeah, he's a jerk, like, wait, what? That's my brother. You can't say that, So,
Yeah.
so that was really good because that really helped us the first 10 years.
Yeah.
That helped us the first 10 years.
Yeah, until we all, it was like, that was a good rule until we had a right, because we had built a personal relationship
Right.
with that personal sibling.
Right.
And then we were like, okay.
We got to know them, and it's
now we
like-
got to know them. It wasn't like, well, you're insulting my past. It's like, no, I have known this person now for the last 10 years, and now I'm going to trash him. So I guess 10 years is the threshold that you can trash them once you have a personal relationship with them.
Yeah.
So that's good. All right. Write that down. That's good. 10 years and then trash everybody. Just kidding. All right. So that went into the let's go into now, how do we transition from there? Because we did transition, because once you eliminate options on what you cannot do, it matures you and forces you into being solution oriented.
Right.
And that's how we got to the topic of making the argument. So let's talk about making the argument, right?
Okay.
Now that we know that we cannot insult each other, that's off the table. We know that we have a technique of knowing where we want this argument to go. In other words, after we finish making these arguments,
Right.
we're going to drop it. Okay, we're going to take it out. So in other words, instead of this being between us where it's a win or lose, if this argument goes your way, it's a loss for me. What we would do is we kind of take it out of our relationship and commit to not reintroduce it, which is partly
Right.
the reason why we don't make decisions alone,
Right.
right? And so remind me to go back to that.
Okay.
Right. So
If I remember.
yeah, making the argument is, okay, let's say it's about something financial, okay, on what we should invest this tax return in, which is right now going to be a lot of people's issue.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Money comes in, there's about, let's say, $2,500 to $5,000 or whatever it is, okay, coming back to the house. One person wants to go on the cruise, the other person wants to remodel, the kitchen cabinets or something like that, right? Which you can't do with $5,000 these days, but whatever you want to do, okay?
Right.
You want to spruce up the house, maybe get a new couch. The other person wants to disappear, in the Caribbean for a week.
Right.
How do you start that? How do you start that argument?
How would I start that argument?
Yeah.
In a healthy way?
Well, in a healthy way.
Yeah, because you have to really realize that it's no longer about the cruise and it's no longer about the kitchen cabinets. It's more about this was my idea and I made it mean something. So by you rejecting this idea and bringing a different idea without listening to my idea, I'm already feeling hurt. So I become attached to this idea. So it could be any idea. It could be any idea, and both ideas could be great for whatever reason. Maybe the cruise is not so selfish. Maybe it's, listen, we've been married for 20 years and never went on a honeymoon, and I want to do this for you.
Yeah.
And I had a surprise that we were going to renew our vows. You see that? You see how important that was? But he couldn't say that to her because it was a surprise.
Right.
And now because you're so about the cabinets, you don't realize the cabinets could come next year when the return comes in. But this is something he is coming from his heart.
Right. And I think that's part of the making the argument, which is if you're going to make an argument, get good at expressing yourself.
Right.
Get good at making a list of this is why I believe it, and leave space for flexibility. Like leave space for your spouse to change your mind. And I think that's a very important thing, that I would have a stern decision, but in my heart, I allowed you to counter, okay, if there was something better. Because the idea is for us to make the best decision, not for you to agree with me.
Exactly.
That wasn't the point. The point was cruise or, home remodel.
Right.
Okay, on whatever ask you want to do. So I could be wrong. You could be right. Or it could be that we really need this cruise.
Right.
It could be that we really need the time off. But let's think of this together, because God has given us the benefit of two minds to run one unit. And so I would be shooting myself in the foot if I didn't have someone to argue the point with me, whether, hey, we could be just throwing this money down the drain and there could be a better use. Maybe I'm just speaking from my feelings. Maybe I'm just tired. And maybe there's a better way for me to not get tired that doesn't cost $5,000.
Right.
Right? Maybe we can do, a day at the spa. Or maybe we can, go to a hotel, find a deal and disappear for 3 days. And maybe that'll be just as good.
Right.
Okay? So there's ways for us to work it out.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Why don't we just take $1,000, go to Atlantic City and let's find a way. But we never made it about the thing.
Right.
It was always about, we have two options, maybe three options. Which one is going to be the best for both of us?
Well, I think it's important because that's good that we can talk about how you get there in a healthy way, because there are times where that decision is in our reality, and when you see that I'm getting attached to my idea, you stop and you say, okay, why is this so important?
There it is.
And so the communication's open now.
Right. Because
now I feel safe.
Because a lot of people don't do that. They're not honest why they want that thing.
Right.
And they have a hidden agenda.
Right.
They just want the spouse to agree without having to divulge the truth behind why you want that.
And I want the kitchen cabinets because I'm not happy.
Right.
When I come home, I feel tired and I just don't want to see this color on here anymore. I need something new. I need this. I need that.
Yeah.
So it becomes something else, you know?
Right. It becomes something else, which is okay. The other spouse should be mature enough to handle that conversation.
Oh, yes, yes.
Even if it's like, look, man, I want these cabinets to be better because I'm sick and tired of my friends and family coming over and them giving my cabinets a side eye, judging me about it. Okay?
You know what happens. You know what happens.
So you might be with somebody who like, I don't care what they think, right? Well, you can't just not care what you think because you have to care what your spouse thinks.
Exactly.
So if it bothers her, then that investment might be better, right? For mentally, the stability of the environment of the house than disappearing, for a week on a,
Right.
on a cruise.
So the way we make the decision is we take it out of the relationship and we analyze it, but we create an argument.
Right.
We don't argue, but we create an argument and we have fun with it now.
Right.
It was a little harder in the beginning, but now it's just more fun.
Yeah. So who's more likely to change their mind, me or you?
Me.
Is that right? I was gonna say me.
Never.
No.
No, you're mad controlling.
No, you've changed my mind several times. Because you have made great points.
Yeah, but
And there's a lot of times that we don't, either one of us get what we want.
Right, we have to,
Right.
we do compromise on, because it might be the same thing, but there's just tweaks that is like,
Right.
no, but I'm not good with that. That part, I just
Yeah.
can't with that, and I think that's where the selflessness comes in.
Yeah. And that's good. And I wish the church and those watching would kind of get that from us, because don't get attached to these decisions. Don't get attached to these
Yeah.
arguments. Don't get attached. Be more attached to each other and each other's happiness.
That's right.
Money is an option. It's going to help you to move something, but it's to move both of you forward. And there's a lot of times that we have made decisions and altered the decision, and we have customized the options where sometimes just by talking about it, it went from option A to option B to, you know what? There's an option C and D. That's better than what we were thinking because we thought about it together.
Yeah, I knew a guy. I knew a guy that would just take all his money and blow it on a motorcycle.
Wow.
And I think the wife had every right to be angry, because she was like, well, what about this? We both agreed that we were going to go do that. And by now we should have already gotten that. And it becomes arguments because you feel forgotten. You feel abandoned. Those are feelings that are tough depending on how the person grew up. And so it's not really about the bike. I'm sure she wanted to trash the bike just to get revenge. But I think that, talking about it first would make him ride that bike a lot happier. Instead of riding it a little resenting.
Right.
Because, she's mad, but whatever. I'm going to get on this bike anyway.
It's my money.
Yeah, I'm going to take a ride for like 20 minutes, like an hour. I'm going to go away for like 3 hours. And it's like...
Yeah, and sometimes we do that. We do things and we don't enjoy it, right? We'll spend money on our little hobbies, but we don't enjoy it because it's different when you're about to ride. Hey, babe, I'm about to go on a bike ride. Okay, have fun, enjoy that.
Yeah, because we made a decision together.
Tell me about it when you come back. What did you see? How was the weather? How was the ride?
Well, let me interject there, because I think that part of it is, for me, is that I feel like you want me to be proud of the things that you do.
Yeah.
And I want you to be proud of the things that I do. So it's like a little kid that comes and says, look what I did. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's great. So you feel so much better about continuing on to doing whatever it is.
Yeah.
But if the spouse is like, oh, cool, that's what's up.
Yeah, that's a bad technique. Yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because then everyone goes to their corner. Because especially men. Men, unfortunately, we're like, man's best friend, right? Which is our dog, which is very reward driven.
Yeah.
Give me a reward, I'll do that again.
Yeah.
Don't give me a reward, I'm learning to not include you. So I shared this with you, this new set of tires for my pickup truck. You didn't pay no attention. I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
And that, unfortunately, that's how it is. And I don't know if there's a brother that would disagree with me, but that's usually how we work. Teach us, reward us, even if it's just, oh, wow.
Right.
Even if it's just okay.
Well, I do
like
that when you bring up all the bags by yourself. When you're doing all the bags by yourself.
Yeah, you gotta suit me up, man. You're so
I'm like,
strong.
wow, look at you. Look at him. Look at that. Oh, there he is. There he is.
Yeah.
Look at the way.
And it works.
It does.
I can't believe I keep falling for it. If you did it right now, it would work. I bet she lying. But anyway, it's a lie that I like.
But it's so true. It's so true, and it works. But I think that that when we are sharing in making a decision, and we can't come to a resolve, we have to leave space to say, let's table this. Let's shelve it. File it somewhere. File this idea. We'll get back to it when we're not so hyper.
Yeah.
Don't use the word when you ain't so resentful. You can't use them words. You gotta be like, when we're both calm. I am calm. Like, okay, you're not calm because I can hear it in your tone. Like, let's just table this because I want to have a very good rest of the night.
Yeah.
So you have to do that. You have to do that sometimes. Maybe decisions don't have, there's decisions that have to be done now. Like, yo, we don't pay the rent. We getting kicked out.
Yeah, for sure. We got a problem.
Right. But then there's other decisions that it's just anxiety that makes you want an answer right now where it's not necessary. And it needs to be developed a little bit more together as a team so that you can come to a better decision for the family. And that's where regret doesn't come in. This is where you're proud of the things that you chose. That's
good. There's a scripture in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I'll just look it up real quick. The chapter about love. And it says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist in its own way. Right?
Right.
So because of the love that we have, our insistence was on maintaining the environment versus that one little thing that I might want something else tomorrow. So that's very powerful. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth.
Right.
Love bears all things, believes all things, hope all things, endures all things. So it rejoices with the truth. So that's one thing that I believe is very, very powerful in the fact that I believe a relationship should rejoice in truth, even if at the moment you don't enjoy the truth. So enjoy the truth, even though you don't like it. So you, because it's a maturing process. For instance, if your spouse tells you that, hey, look, truthfully, I don't like this about you. It's the truth.
Yeah.
And you have two options. Them not tell you the truth and just live with that secret. Right? Or just tell me so we can change it so we're both happy in this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's where things shifted for us too. Being able to be more honest with each other. And it was like, hey, I feel like you don't care. Your message, your physiology is telling me this.
Right.
And it's like, oh no, that's absolutely not what I'm thinking. And it's like, oh, I misunderstood your ways of being.
Right.
It was like, wow, all these years I'm thinking this guy, So being truthful and being able to accept it and not be defensive was the most helpful thing. It was hard in the beginning, but I think after a couple of years of doing it, we were able to see prosperity. We saw prosperity. We made faster moves. You made faster moves. I didn't feel like you were gonna drag your feet on things.
Yeah.
But when there's no honesty, there's anxiety.
Right.
What's going on? Is this gonna happen? Are we gonna do this? Are we not? You say you were gonna do this. I got a time limit on you. It's like,
right.
Because who's gonna live enjoy life like that?
Because it's like there's something in the other person that you don't trust.
Yeah.
I don't trust you're gonna come through. I don't trust you're gonna keep your word. I don't trust because there's something missing. There's information that the other person is not telling you. And that can drive you crazy, especially for a woman who is trying to follow this man who biblically is supposed to be the head of the house.
Right.
But how can you be calm if the head of the house has you in the dark? Okay. So that's one of the things that as a man or as a leader in my own house, I have to be careful to not keep you in the dark. Right. Or keep the girls in the dark, because I can see how that creates instability for the house.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why next thing I want to talk about, which is, when we actually make decisions, how we not argue them, but how we decide whether we're going to do something or not. Something that we both agreed already.
Right.
For instance, buying a property or making a big purchase.
Right.
There are things that, or going on vacation, okay? Early on, you were challenged with that because you come from a family of women who the majority of them were divorced, and they push this independent attitude.
Oh, yeah.
And there was one time where you were challenged, right? Talk about that when your mom, and I love your mom, right?
Yeah.
But she had challenged you because you had told her our rule when it comes to decision making, that we don't make any decisions by ourselves.
Well, it was more like your mom was in the car,
Yeah.
which was, thank God, because she backed me up. And my mom is Christian. So, we go to the food shopping, and one of my kids was in the back, and I was like, oh, this is a teaching moment. And she says, when are you going to buy a ticket to come to Puerto Rico? And I go, well, I have to talk to, fellow about that. And it was just instant reaction. It wasn't even spiritual. It wasn't that she's bitter or whatever, but it was like an instant generational curse that came along. And she answered, and she's a Christian. She knows the Bible,
Yeah.
but she answers and says, oh, that's not the daughter that I raised. I've raised an independent daughter.
Uh-oh.
She don't need nobody to tell her. So now she's creating this she that she created, and she birthed, and she made, and she raised. And I'm thinking,
So she felt like her parenting skills were challenged.
oh yes,
Wow.
oh yes. And so I sat back and I was listening to the list of things that she was pointing out, and I said, well, yeah, I think I am those things in my mind while she's talking, because
Right.
I wasn't gonna disrespect her and start arguing. And your mom's in the car, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a teaching moment, because one of my kids is in the car, and I have to do something about this, because I can't let this generational thought keep going in our
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
And so after she was done venting, I said, well, it's in the Bible, isn't it? Isn't that biblical? And I asked your mom, I look at your mom. I don't let my mom answer. I look at your mom and I say, isn't that true, Sule, that the Bible says? She goes, It is. It's in the Bible. And I said, it's in the Bible, Mom. Sorry. I just have to do it this way. I'm still those things. She's sitting in the back. I said, I'm still all those things, but I still have to do it this way, because my conviction is that the Bible makes me make the decision this way.
Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah, she was so proud. She was
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, you introduced the Bible. You're right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
That is kind of part of it, knowing what the Bible says
Oh, yeah.
about the points that you are holding on to.
Yeah.
Because, especially in a marriage, once you get married, the past always shows up, where the philosophy of the mom, the philosophy of the grandmother, the philosophy of the fathers and uncles, like all those philosophies, most people don't understand how much that impacts relationships.
Yes.
I have, in our family, there's every uncle, every aunt has a philosophy and idea. Some of them are for monogamy, some of them are not. Right? Some of them are like, oh, you can't be with the same woman, that gets tiring. And there's a whole side that kind of adheres to that.
Is that like a Dominican thing or?
Well, let's not get into that. But yeah, there's some families who, when, let's say, the kid comes back and he says, oh, I have a girlfriend, I have two girlfriends, they get celebrated.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
And so that becomes a philosophy, that when, you want to misbehave or have an affair, there's family members that will support you.
And cover for you.
Cover for you and all this kind of stuff, and will contribute to the destruction of that family. And I think part of the decision that we have to make is identifying those people. And if you have transitioned from being a non-Christian to a Christian, you have to decide that now your life has to be ran by a completely different set of rules.
Oh, yes.
And your personal rules has to be like, these are the 10 people I will never listen to or never go to for advice, because I know their philosophy on relationships.
Exactly.
If you were raised with your family, then you already know who thinks like what. And there's some people who are, no, you got to fight for your marriage. You got to fight. And there's other people like, why fight? Okay.
And let me tell you, that's not hard, because when we get into an argument or a couple gets into an argument, you know exactly who not to go to.
Yeah.
And you know who to go to so that they can support you. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're gonna take your side. There's some friends will be like, come on, man, you know you crazy. Just go back over there. You know you love her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's easy to make that decision of the 10 people that I am no longer going to go to for advice.
Yeah. And usually those 10 people have a big mouth.
Yeah, everybody
And
knows
the
your
whole
business.
family will know all your business before the day's over, because some information is so juicy, and then you shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Because these people will now be the constant apparatus that you have to avoid, all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely don't have a big mouth, okay, in your relationships. If you have a family who's close knit, even more so, do you have to keep your mouth shut? You have to learn how to handle things in-house, how to get the strategies, how to work it out. And that has been a blessing in disguise that gave us the opportunity to mature faster.
Yes.
Because we didn't have these other philosophies coming in. So we decided what philosophy we wanted to adopt through books, through seminars, through listening to other people
Yes.
that were not talking directly to us, but that were offering information that we got to choose. Okay, let's be this type of couple. Let's be this type of marriage. Let's build this. And I think that has been a big blessing in disguise, that no one sat us down and taught us that.
Right.
Or we never heard a podcast, or much less pastors talk about this stuff.
Yeah, never.
I personally have never experienced growing up in church where the pastor and his wife were open to the church about their private life. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like you had to guess what they were like. And it's hard, because now you just imagining, okay, what it is, instead of saying, okay, this is a blueprint, and I think I can live with that blueprint. I think I can do that.
Right.
Because if it's really good and it really works, it should work inside the church and outside the church. When the Dobbins were here, right? Elder Chrissy and Pastor Venchart,
Yeah.
I had asked them, I said, do the Dobbins work outside of church?
Mm-hmm.
And so Chrissy and Venchart, they answered the question, which I think was great. But what I was looking for was, if you were not Christians,
Would your marriage still work?
would your marriage still work? And I think that's obviously a taboo question. Okay, nobody wants to address that.
Right.
But the reality is, there are many people who are not in church,
Right.
who have been married successfully for many, many years.
That's right.
Because there are fundamentals that human beings can adhere to have a wonderful life together once they make this decision. Because even before sin fell, okay, to the point that we had to receive the blood of Christ to be saved and become Christians for our salvation, the plan for the family to work was already there even before sin entered the world. And so, one of the things that I see that I don't really see people talk about is, Adam and Eve made it. Mm-hmm. They were together for many, many years. Mm-hmm. Okay. They were not Christians.
Right.
Many of the people did not have, even in Israel, they did not attend services weekly. So the family to come together, we have to sometimes stop putting the pressure on our Christian status and saying, well, only if we're Christian is it going to work. It's not true. Okay, everybody can make a marriage work, and the things that make marriage work simply make marriage work. It isn't because you are Christian. What Christianity does, what having God in your life does, is like cheating. Honestly, having Jesus that I can pray to, that can give me word, that can give me insight, is like cheating. Where the world really has to go through a very hard process,
Right.
to trust each other, to love each other, to not have, because Jesus kind of cheats and say, hey, listen, it's going to be all right. In the world, you don't have that, right? What are some of the things that you see that we got going on that would work outside of religion, that we would stay together anyway?
I think our desire to see each other happy is the first one. I get excited when you get happy, and I'm part of the decision. I get real excited about what we're doing. And I see that in you too, where, you say, oh, you could do this. And it's like, oh yeah, so you're interested in me. So you're attentive to me and my needs. But I think the second thing is that we're so opposite. And when we were able to appreciate each other's strengths and not try to impose my strength on you and say, you need to be more like this. When that got fixed, if that's a better word, fixed, and I honestly, if I wasn't Christian, I think we could still fix that, because your strengths are always going to be your strengths, whether you're Christian or not.
Yeah.
It was just me, like, just admiring your strengths and not trying to put you down and say, you know what, you should be better at finances. You know what, you should do. You're so bad at money. You know, instead, I said, well, wait a minute. I'm better at finances. I'm better at this. So why am I not doing it? Why am I not adding to our relationship instead of putting these things on you?
Yeah.
You know, one of
That's
the
good.
issues that I know this guy, right? I'm just gonna tell this story, right?
Go ahead.
So,
There's a scripture I want to read. I'm looking for.
yeah.
I'm paying
so,
attention.
So there's
though.
a story. So I know this guy, and he's married to his wife, and he comes home and he opens up the mail and he sees that his wife has a savings account. And he gets irate. He is so upset. And she can't, for the life of her, figure out why she's upset, why he's upset. And he's telling her, you know, you kept it from me. And he's trying to explain to her, but he doesn't know how to really say it. And
Yeah.
she's like, but my mom always told me, whenever I got paid, put a little bit to the side, because you never know. So when she said that, you know what his answer was? You doing that is like me getting a side chick in case our relationship doesn't work out.
Exactly.
I thought that was genius. It was genius. And she dropped her guard and was like, that's not the same thing. But in her heart was like, yo, he's right. He's right. So when I talked to her, I realized, you know, that, well, and she realized in conversation that it was more about that generational thought that mom told me this is more important in case something happened. So the seed was sown.
Right. And that's usually a decision. That is a philosophy that was probably birthed out of fear of seeing women left abandoned. And also, unfortunately, it is true, you know, where a bad breakup happens, they get divorced, and then the woman, after many years of giving her life into this relationship, is left with nothing because she didn't have any personal savings. And so that is a very, very big problem. And we always pray that doesn't happen, because that is heart-wrenching, is hard to hear. But we cannot build our lives based on other people's misfortunes.
Right.
Trying to create this private insurance policy,
Right.
because then having those policies don't help you to grow in that relationship. When it comes to money, and we know money is one of the big reasons why people separate, because they attach a lot of things to the money. Like you said, personal safety, abandonment issues, I don't want to be abandoned.
Pride.
And control too. Pride, control, right? I should have my own stuff and all that kind of stuff. We never did that, right? I always was one who was more interested in putting the money in your hands, because I noticed early on that you had a gift of the money just lasting longer. That when you were in control of it, first of all, you were much better at remembering, okay, what bills had to get paid. And I had to be honest with myself that I would be like chasing, you know, a notice or something like that, because, oh, it was supposed to be done yesterday and I had to do it today. And that wasn't very pleasing to me. It was kind of always, you know, off. And so you had more of a gift when it came to the management of it. And I have more of a gift when it comes to going out and finding it. And so as a team, we were able to make it work.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
So I know that there's a question that people always ask themselves when they're in a relationship. And this is not when you're just Christian, right? So this is something that it should work for you outside of church.
Yeah.
If outside of it, like if you weren't Christian, it should still work for your marriage or your relationship. And so you got people that are asking themselves, well, you know, I think it's better that we have this is the theory that is going around, which I totally don't agree with. So we both have one connected account, and so that is what we both put some money in.
Yeah.
So that's, we agreed that those will pay the rent and the needs of living. And the rest of it goes into your own personal account, and the rest of mine goes into my own personal account. You have no access to mine, and I have no access to yours. So then it becomes tit for tat. Because it's like, I'm low on money, and I need somebody to help me pay the my car insurance or my car payment, because that's not part of that main, right? This is just a luxury that I have.
Right.
So now it's like, yo, I'm gonna need some money. It's like, what happened to the money you made?
Yeah. Which is a horrible conversation, because now it becomes an adult to a child conversation.
Right.
It's not adult to adult, because adults, partner together.
That's
Children are dependent.
That's right.
And a spouse should not be dependent on another spouse. They should be a team. And so, I believe that having separate accounts does not give you accountability. If you're a believer, you really should not have it, because you might have vices that will rob your family of its future wealth. One of the things I'm proud of to the girls that say, I don't have another family. Okay, I don't have another relationship outside of this, which is many of the men in my family have never made it to prosperity, because they had to maintain 2 households, sometimes 3.
Oh yeah.
And so, they might have made 150,000, but really
Slim.
only 70,000 came to the house.
Right.
And so both families never really prospered, could never really save to put property,
That's
down
right.
payment, closing costs, all this kind of stuff, because the money had to secretly be funneled in different directions. But when the account goes together and we both see what goes in and out, we have to agree to it.
Yeah.
So if we are having this bad habit, we have it together.
Oh yeah. No,
Right?
we enjoy the bad habit together.
Yeah, we enjoy it. We want to splurge, right, on a weekend, right, somewhere, and just get this out of control, expensive Airbnb, so we can just sleep in like 5 beds in that weekend. It's ours
what
to
we wanna
mismanage.
do. Yeah.
So that's been one of the fun parts of getting older, right, and having kids early, which is a whole nother chapter.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I did not know how good that was going to be. When I was 21, I told you, right? I said, babe, let's have these kids early. Okay, I do not want to have kids when I'm older.
That's not the story.
Well,
The story is that you got me pregnant, and then you said that.
right, right.
The doctor said stay away from her because she's fertile.
Well,
and
that
you
was
said,
the second
oh.
one. Well, that was the second.
Oh,
that was
okay.
Jiley.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, no, it's all right. Let's get this out the way. Right.
Yeah, we didn't make that decision together.
Well, let's not talk about that in front of people, how that came to pass. All right. But it was a decision that became a blessing. Now in our 40s, we have children that we can enjoy having conversations with.
Yes.
We're also young enough to enjoy the second stage of our life, which is kind of going back to when we first got married, being just by ourselves.
Yeah.
But having more things to run, to ruin, and it's been beautiful to kind of see a development, and then seeing our girls, helping us to build the remainder of what we are assigned to do,
Yes.
in the Lord, in our private life, and things like that. So when it comes to money, put the accounts together, right?
Because that's where the hard conversations start.
Yeah, there you go.
And honesty needs to come out. If you don't do it the way, putting it together, and I'm not saying don't have different accounts, because we do have different accounts, but we're on all of them.
Right.
We share everything. Whatever I make, it's there. Whatever you make, it's there. If it's a refund, it goes in there. Everything goes there. And it's like, by not having this one account being unified, you miss the opportunity to build a real relationship. Because if finances is the reason why most people get divorced, why not start there? Why not use that as a thing, as a decision, as that thing that you mentioned in the beginning? Let's use finances as that, so that we can build on our conversation.
Yeah.
We can build our language. We can learn what we love. Oh, I didn't know that you like that. That's cool. I like that. Yeah, we should go skiing. I never skied before, but I'm interested. You see? So
Right.
so it's like, yeah, you don't have to spend your money and try to hide it when you could just become one.
Right.
Keep becoming one.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the challenge, right? It's a never-ending process of getting better together, right? Which is why I really always believed in early compatibility, right? I believe we're compatible today because we were compatible in day one. And a lot of the things that we are enjoying now have not changed from the beginning. I think during the ups and downs was just getting to know each other,
Right.
digging out, the secrets, getting to know how to get over certain things,
Right.
and how to find a way to work it out. But
And maturity.
and maturity as well.
I mean, we were young, yeah.
Yeah, but we were compatible from the door because we already knew that we were able to be flexible, okay, with one another, and not have this attitude of no, it has to be this way,
Right.
or have these hard no's
Yeah.
of I'm not going to be this, I'm not going to be this,
Yeah.
or I'm not going to do this. And so having that eliminated early on, I believe was also one of the secrets of why we're still together today. And pray for us, obviously, because we're human beings. Okay,
Right.
we want to stay together for another 20, 40 years, whatever it is that God would have us to be here. And I believe that if we do make it all the way to the end, it's only because we continue to the fundamentals. And our desire for the couples, for relationships new and old,
Right.
is that they would take some of the stuff. Because I believe that there's some couples that are brilliant and they have other techniques that might be even better than ours. So if you're watching this and you have stuff that works for you, that's better than what we're telling you, do it. Do your thing.
Yes.
We're not telling you to copy us and to rubber stamp what we're doing and apply it to your life. What we're saying is we have a pattern that we went through the struggle to figure it out. And you should figure it out as well. Study your spouse. Study the person that you are about to get engaged with, okay? If you just got married, take the time. Don't get frustrated early. Do a lot of homework early. Find out what makes you happy. Find out what keeps each other going, okay? And above all things, become one, okay? I want to close in this scripture because the Lord kind of put in my heart that there's some people that are struggling because they're Christians, but the person that they're with is not, okay? And they want to apply some things, but biblically, they don't know exactly what to do. But there's a scripture, read after this, if you're really struggling with that, you can go ahead and read 1 Corinthians chapter 7 from 1 to about 15. I'm going to read verse 12.
That's good.
1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 12. It says, to the rest I say, he says, let me hold this. To the rest I say, I, not the Lord, which is one of the first times that you see the Apostle Paul inserting his own personal opinion. Mm-hmm. If any brother has a wife who is an unbeliever and she consents to live with him, he should not divorce her. If any woman has a husband who is an unbeliever and he consents to live with her, she should not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is made holy because of his wife, and the unbelieving wife is made holy because of her husband. Otherwise, your children will be unclean, but as it is, they are holy.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
This
Amen.
is a big deal.
Yeah, but I want to chime in on that because that does not mean that if you're single and you're seeking a partner in life, no one out there should go and say, well, it doesn't say to get a Christian guy. No, this is for people who already
Who already were married. and then came to the faith.
And if the husband or spouse, whatever spouse doesn't follow, that's okay. Because
Right.
the marriage should work.
There it is. That's what we're talking
It
about.
should work regardless because you made the right decision. You didn't choose. Like I see a lot of times two people get together, they get married, and the wife is trying to mentor the husband.
Oof.
Or the husband.
Big mistake.
Or the husband is mentoring the wife.
Oh, no, that's horrible.
It is.
And we didn't do that in the
No.
beginning. Even I told you, I said, listen, I know the word and everything, but you got to find sisters
Right.
that will bring that support. That was big for us.
Right, because when you get together is partnership.
Right.
We're at the same level. We're partnership. If it wasn't for that, I would have never seen your strengths. I would have never allowed my strengths to come in and help with your weaknesses.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Right. And also, it would have eventually been, and this ain't for everybody, but the temptation to try to insert your own theology, okay, into your spouse is way too tempting. Well, I think this way. I want you to think this way, versus letting the spouse get an individual revelation of Jesus Christ, individual revelation that can enhance the marriage, versus we're just going to do what you say because you're the only one that knows the word. And I find that to be very dangerous for many different reasons. Because if you're the only one reading and studying, then how can the other person give you feedback other than what you gave them? And you're not God, and you want the person to have an individual relationship with God. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And as far as singles, I believe that the scripture tells us that we should not be unequally yoked. Okay? Unequally yoked spiritually, and I think unequally yoked as far as dreams.
Natural, right, in the natural.
Vision.
That's right.
Right? We can be together, and you can actually be both Christians and unequally yoked in mindset.
Yes. And that's the most important part. That it's the souls, right? That the souls can be compatible. Not that we like the same things. Not that we can be great at the same things. That you don't want to take that away, because that's where appreciation comes.
Right.
I can't be proud of you of something if I'm weak at it, right?
Right.
And you're great at it, you do it, then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. But if you don't allow that, and you try to like impose, like we have to be perfect together, like love the same things, that's not what that means. It's about the mindset. You know, do we have the same mindset of finances? Not that we have to agree on everything, but the same ideas.
Right.
Or are you just like this gambler, right? Oh, he'll get better after we get married and have kids. No, it doesn't get better. It's an addiction. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of things that, you know, really come into play when you're choosing a partner and you say, oh no, but he's Christian. Yeah, but he's a gambling Christian. And you hate that because your dad was a gambler.
Absolutely. That's a big deal. Well, in closing, okay, because it's already been an hour, so we got to go. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope that it was another day that was edifying for you, and that you were able to take some notes to take that home and build your life to something better. Any final words, Pastor Myrli?
Nah, this was good.
This was good, right?
Keep sending your questions. We will get to them.
Yeah, we'll get to them. And you let us know if this is all that you guys need and you don't need more talks from us, then we're fine. We'll go back to our regularly scheduled program. But if you want more, let us know. You can always send, if you don't have our personal info and you're watching, you can always send email to info@houseofworshipministries.org. Info, INFO, @houseofworshipministries.org. And you can do that. If you're part of the church, you can, text us, right? Whatever you got to do. If you're not part of the church, we invite you to be part of the church.
That's
Come
right.
down, right? We're right here, 6019 Broadway in West New York, New Jersey. We are going to be here Sunday as we continue the series on prophecy. And that has been very, very powerful. I can't talk about that enough, but continue to be with us and grow. Whatever God has given us, our commitment is to give it to you. We're not going to the grave with anything. We're going to give you all of our knowledge, all of our information, everything that we have. We're going to package it up and give it to you. So hopefully we can all make our families better, bring them to a level of spiritual prosperity, hopefully natural prosperity as well. And we can all do what God has called us to do. Continue to pray for us as we continue to pray for you. And we'll see you here next time on the House of Worship. God bless.